Hi, I'm George Nordhaus, and welcome to Monday morning. We are going to be doing something now. We're going to start something. We'll be doing it a little bit every month, which is you're going to love, because it's going to take us to the point of where we really are running our agencies. Where are we really? And when I read a book by Bart Baker, you're going to read in just a minute. You've already probably heard him. He's already done some for us. Called the Breakthrough Agency. I flipped because I said to myself, I have not seen anything like this ever. It's time somebody did this. How do they do it? And I talked to Bart, and he was kind enough to say, well, I'll be glad to help if I can. And he has. He's the president of Bart Baker Agency, or BWA Baker, over in Malibu, California, where I used to live not too many years ago. And anyhow, we never knew each other, though, as a matter of fact. And anyhow, Bart, let me tell you a little bit about him just for a second, if I may. There's his picture, and he was, believe it or not, when he first started his business, he was a fireman. Yeah, he really was. And for a long time, he was a fireman. But now he's running one of the most successful agencies in the country. I mean, it's not, huge like Marsh and Mack or something like that. But it's a small agency, but it's very well run, and it's very profitable. He and Wendy work there, and the other people who work with us, I'm beginning to know more and more of them as we go. But on the Farmers Insurance Company, he was in the top 1%, and he tells how that's happened. And it's an amazing program the way he's done this thing. I don't know how it all came together. Maybe he can tell us about that. But that book I'm telling you about, it's called The Breakthrough Insurance Agency. And there's another one, The Elephant Sits on You, Are You Covered? Well, I won't go there right now because we're using that book and his basics to tell all of our he's going to be doing, in fact, he's already done automobile and homeowners. We'll be doing all of the basics, but we go back to the basics on each coverage, and that'll be for your people who are not familiar with homeowners or automobile or whatever it is, or new people to come on with you, or your kids or your grandkids or whatever it may be. He is very, very active and has been a speaker and a trainer. It's been 25 years now, so he's getting around there. Bart, you never cease to amaze me, my friend. Never. Army of Innovators, talk to me.
Well, thank you, George. I really appreciate the introduction, first of all. I also got to say that I've always been a fan of yours. I love your product. I love the inventory of interviews that you have on agenciesonline.biz, and it's just, a terrific resource that I access quite a bit myself. So, I definitely feel privileged and honored to be able to contribute.
It's my pleasure. It never would happen if it weren't for guys like you who are giving. And I want to reiterate, and I say it right now, and I continue to say it, you don't get paid for this. You do it because you want to do it for the industry. And that's a fabulous thing. What's an Army of Innovators?
Right. So what an Army of Innovators, actually is, George, is that I've always been fascinated by what some people are able to accomplish in the amount of time that they have available to them, when you look at other people in the same industry, and maybe not so much, especially by comparison. And so when I look at this over the years, I'm trying to figure out, so what is it that somebody does that creates a success level that is just absolutely astounding? And I wrote, the book, The Breakthrough Insurance Agency. It goes into detail from my opinion as to what those differentiators are, but it really boils down to, initially, is that you have to have your business set up in a way that you have, people, the right people in the right positions to be able to support you to grow your business. And I think that when I first make that statement, it might sound complicated to some people, but I found that there's a very simple way to be able to implement this system that once we did, our production, our gross income, our net income just took off like a rocket. So I've been able to duplicate it with every department within the agency, and have been able to continue to do that throughout the years, so that we grow on an annual basis, every year, year in and year out. And the important part, George, is that it's very simple to do. And during our conversation today, the goal for me is for our audience to leave saying, man, I could do that. That makes a heck of a lot of sense, and let's implement it and start growing our agencies.
I agree with you. Boy, this your next thing that you're going to talk about is pretty tough for people, less you. You know, we're all kind of, I mean, in the agency business, we're all kind of egotists or whatever. I mean, we're pretty good at what we do, damn good at what we do, or we wouldn't be doing it. I think this is the hardest decision of all, right here.
Okay, well, you know, I totally agree with you, and that's true, but it really comes down to then what it is that you want for yourself, for your life, for your family. And if you are exactly where you want to be, then obviously you don't need to do a thing. But this is, you know, written for those folks that really do want to have a much bigger future than where they are right now, you know, a much bigger lifestyle, and to have a lot more money and to have a lot more freedom. So when we look back at any type of, you know, professionals that we do business with, so I think of, for example, my doctor, my lawyer, my, you know, accountant, CPA, all of those people, I love them to death. They're really good at what they do. But George, I got to tell you, they all have a job. It's a high-paying job, but if they remove themselves from the equation, if they were on vacation, let's say for a month, their business is kind of going to come down to a grinding halt, because they are the ones that are bringing in the income. And then you look at people that are in the same type of business, but yet they have figured out a way to be able to remove themselves for a period of time and have that income continue to roll in, and not only to roll in, but to continue to grow. So that's what the 3M concept is all about, and that's what we're going to be going over today.
Well, you're not even telling people to work harder, are you?
Absolutely not. No, actually, the whole benefit of this is that you work less. So in order to make more money, and I learned this concept from Dan Sullivan, who's been a coach of mine with Strategic Coach for quite some time. But when he first talked about this concept that in order to make more, you have to work less, I thought, you know, it sounded so you know, counterintuitive. However, when you really start to look at that, you know, obviously there's only so much of us going around. There's only so many hours in a day. So when we work less ourselves, and what I mean by that is that we cannot be the person that does, you know, just about anything in the agency. Almost everything eventually has to be delegated to somebody else, where we just oversee the systems, the processes, manage the relationships, and the value that we bring to the agency is that figurehead. And so in here, what we're going to be talking about now, as I said, is how to make that happen.
And here comes the maximizers, the 3 M's. I love this 3M.
Right. Okay, so the 3 M's, the first position that we have to have is a position that I call the maximizer. So when I first started the agency with my wife, you know, we started the agency years ago together, we were it. I mean, we did the paperwork and we saw the clients and we serviced the accounts, and we didn't really start to grow much until we were able to, you know, delegate, for example, the issuing and the quoting and things like that. However, it really started to change, George, when we came up with this concept of a maximizer. And a maximizer, some people would look at that and say, well, Bart, you're just talking about a CSR. But that's really not the case, because if you were to ask a CSR what their job description is, they're going to tell you that my job description is I service the customer, I prepare the quotes, and I bind the business. You know, things like that. That's the type of answer that you're going to get from most people that are a CSR. However, if you were to talk to folks in my office, and we do use the terminology maximizers and multipliers, and every department has a maximizer and a multiplier, some departments more than those two, the maximizer will tell you that my job description is to allow my multiplier to stay in the zone for 80% at least of their day. So when that maximizer has that mindset shift and knows that what their job is to allow their multiplier to be able to, you know, sell like nobody's business, create income, and build a relationship, and therefore they have to take over everything else so that that could happen. That's where the differentiator of the definition of maximizer versus CSR takes place.
I got it. Well, it's, do they actually, your people know? Do they think of themselves as a multiplier or a maximizer?
Absolutely. So in the agency, we have every department, and we have departments for personal lines and for commercial lines and for life and health and financial services. You know, every one of our departments is staffed with maximizers and multipliers. And because it is a completely distinct job description, they know who they are. So if you walked into any one of the offices, you could just say, "Who here is the maximizer?" and they'll raise their hand. I mean, they know exactly.
Don't they mix a bit? I mean, does the person think of themselves as both?
Well, of course, things like that do happen. The maximizers, you know, do come to the point where they start to sell more policies. They start to get a better relationship established with the client. And the beauty of this is that it's a career path for the maximizers, so that they are able to rise.
Become multipliers. I got it.
And become a multiplier. And then when they are a multiplier, they know what a good maximizer looks like and does, because they've been in that position.
Right. I like this. So relationships and brings in income. Boy.
Okay.
Name of the game.
So the maximizer is the person that allows the multiplier to stay in that zone where all the multiplier does, 80% of their day, is create income and build relationship. So when your multiplier, if that's what your position is, what I'm constantly telling them is that all I'd like you to do is look at whatever it is that you're doing during the course of the day and run it through this filter. Just ask yourself, if this activity, whatever it is that they're doing, is it creating income or is it building relationship? And if the answer is yes, then that's perfect. That's exactly what you're supposed to be doing. However, if the answer is no, then that is an activity that needs to be performed by your maximizer. So just to follow up on that, is that obviously a multiplier cannot do that 100% of the day, because there's going to be all sorts of administrative type stuff going on that's going to have to be taken care of.
Right.
But if you could spend, George, about 80% of your day just doing those two activities, creating income, building relationship, and be structured so that your support person, your maximizer, knows that that's what the goal is, I'm telling you, your production, your stress level, absolutely everything changes, and you will grow like nobody's business.
Beautiful. So simple, in theory.
In theory, I'm the first to agree that it's simpler in theory. However, when you stay focused on it and you are committed to it, and that's what you communicate on a regular basis, it starts to happen. It's a process. As with any change in life, it's a process, but it's a process that will pay off big time in the end.
Absolutely. And when you go out to get these guys, or gals or whatever, do you explain the maximizer multiplier situation to them? How to choose them as you go?
Absolutely, absolutely. So when we bring somebody into the agency, for example, somebody new, we first require that they read the book so that they have a clear understanding as to the philosophy of the agency, how we do business, how we, take care of the client on a holistic basis, everything that they have as far as their exposure, not just, a particular line of business. And then as far as the operation of the agency, of the maximizer multiplier concept, and we let them know that, typically 9 times out of 10, we always start our folks off as maximizers and explain what that is and what the career path is, because the multipliers make more money. And so what the career path is to become a multiplier. And so everybody knows that, provided that they do, that they're effective and they do a good job, that that they're going to continue to be able to make more and more money every year, year in and year out, because they participate in the growth of the agency. And if you look at our staff, George, some people have been with us going on close to 20 years. I had one person that just retired after 20 years, but people don't leave.
No, they get hooked in because they're involved. They've got a money in the game here.
Absolutely.
I would think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So George, when you first start an agency, or let's say that you're just a smaller shop, technically speaking, you are the chief multiplier of your agency, in that you create income, you build relationship. However, a lot of the smaller agencies, you also end up doing maximizer activity also. So when I'm talking to people that are not necessarily newer in business, but let's just say they have a smaller agency, the concept of hiring somebody to begin with that you could actually show them the maximizer concept, it will allow you to become a much more effective multiplier, so that you just focus on those activities. And then typically you'll take that maximizer that you hired, and just like we talked about, you'll bring them up. They'll become a multiplier for a certain department, commercial, personal lines, whatever. Then they become supported by a maximizer, and then you bring somebody else in to do another department. So as fast as you can duplicate it, you just keep on adding and adding and adding. So right now we're up to 15 people, and the system works beautifully.
I can see why I would not. Let me ask a quick question. Don't some people object, or I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for, but wouldn't they rather stay as maximizers than become multipliers? Isn't there a certain number of people who are made that way?
Sure. The answer is yes, and that's totally fine. I mean, I always say that's why there's 31 flavors of ice cream, is that, some people just want to do a certain thing, and as long as they're really good at it, I mean, I've got no problem with that at all. However, I don't want to lose good people because they're not getting the opportunity that they're looking for. So because of that, we do have this career path available for those that want to, because obviously it's a different skill set. It's a totally different, job of being a multiplier versus a maximizer, and not everybody wants to. However, it is available for those that do and can excel with doing those two activities.
So you get people you like, huh? I can just see you
Pardon
guys.
me?
I like to do the next thing to get people that you like. Well, I think everybody tries to hire people you like, but that isn't quite as easy as it sounds, is it?
Well, in the book, there's a chapter that we devote towards the 3 personal characteristics that I think everybody has to have in our service-related business. And the first one is likability. I mean, if you're not likable and not perceived as being likable, then forget about it. You're not going to go any further than that. You just got to stop there. However, if you're likable and you're trustworthy and people have confidence in you, and if you have those 3 abilities to transfer that feeling to your customer, I mean, you're going to take off like nobody's business. So when we hire people, the first part is the likability, because I can't teach somebody to be likable, but I can teach them to be trustworthy, provided that they're honest, and obviously we only hire people that are, and to be confident just by training them in product knowledge and training them on how to always do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, because that builds the the trust side of it. So it's not hard to find good people, provided that they're likable, and then obviously there's a lot more to it, and not everybody works out. But that's just the key quality that they've got to have before we go any further.
I guess you learn too. You make mistakes like the rest of us have. Well, I've made some awful mistakes hiring, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. In the slide, though, in this slide, I just like to hit these other 2 items that are on here.
Yeah.
I read someplace that if you want your people to treat your customers well, then really the only thing you got to do is treat your people really well. And provided that you've got good people to begin with, the better you treat your staff, the better they in turn are going to treat your clients. So we obviously try to go, just really overboard. And, I love my team. I think they're absolutely amazing. And the better I am to them, I just find that the better they are to the clients. And then we use this system called Colby. I'm sure a lot of people have heard about that, but it's just an assessment that we have every new hire that we bring on board go through that so that we can see how they are assessed in different categories. And in the book, it goes through that. And also, if you looked at just the, Colby.com, you can learn an awful lot about using that assessment to hire good people too.
Okay. All right. Well, then the third M is the biggie, I guess. Or not really. I don't know. I guess they're all the same. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Measure up.
The third M, so for the 3M concept, we talked about multipliers, maximizers. So the third one is measurement. So it doesn't really mean anything if you just, go to work every day and work hard. And if you don't have, if you're not achieving what we have defined as success, then it doesn't really matter. So we have a monthly production goal for each department, and if we hit our monthly production goals, then life is great. I just manage to the production goal. So if we are hitting our number on a monthly basis, then there's really very little involvement where I have to personally go in and assess what is the issue and what might be preventing us from hitting it. And however, when we pick the number, it's not something that I dictate to them. We get together as a team and we come up with what we feel is a stretch goal, a little bit scary. However, we could do it. Then once that number is there, it's set in stone. I mean, it doesn't change. We don't dumb it down, or we also don't increase it during the year. This is our goal for 2015, for example. And we report on a weekly basis and on a monthly basis so that everybody knows exactly where they are. So there's a term that says that which is measured improves, and that which is measured and reported improves exponentially. I think that's also a Dan Sullivan term. And by using this and communicating, everybody knows where they are at all times. You hit your numbers, you're golden. If you don't hit your numbers, they know that I'm going to be spending a little bit more time with them, and it's not the most fun, to be honest with you, but I find that that department quickly understands the importance that this isn't just a number we put up there. This is a number that we are going to hit for sure. It's not optional.
I got you. Maximizers, multipliers, go. I love it. This is the final roundup here, but it's not going to be our final roundup because as I learned this book, I've read this book maybe 3 times. It takes me a while, not as young as I used to be, but at any rate, there are some good things in here about that we'll finish this slide in a second, but there are so many exciting points that we're going to do. So on the third week of every month, we're going to we're going to follow up on this, and I'll tell you about that in a second. Well, I'll tell you right now, but we're going to have Bart back with us. He's going to talk about if that's the way and you're holding people to all that stuff, what about compensation? How can you compensate them? How can you give them those goals and make it worthwhile so they really understand? And all that's part of this. So it's easy to say, I don't say it's easy, but the 3 M's. And then we're going to talk about the various divisions that you could have in an agency. A lot of people have all kinds of divisions in an agency, but you've approached it a little bit differently. I really like that. And we're going to be going and talk about the passion that people have and how to give them passion, or if they don't have passion, maybe you don't want them or something like that. But anyway, we're going to do that in the future, so I'm kind of excited about it. That's a new equation is what we're really going after, right?
At 100%, George, you're absolutely correct. So what this whole system is all about is really about freedom. It's giving us as the agency owners, freedom to be able to have the time to enjoy those things in life that that we want to do, and also to be able to have the money to be able to do what we want when we want, whether it's personal or charitable or family, whatever it is. So I could just tell you from the bottom of my heart, George, that this stuff works. We've been doing it now for quite some time, and I've seen the results in agencies that have implemented it. And this isn't theory. It's not textbook. It's just real life, in the trenches developed, so to speak, items that are very simple to communicate and very simple to implement. So this 3M concept that we talked about today is just basic agency structure as far as how you set up your producers and your CSRs, and obviously we use different terminology for that. But we are going to be going into compensation and vision and all of those other things that you mentioned. And what I think the beauty of this whole program is its simplicity. Is that it's not technical, it's not complicated, and I find those things that are easier to understand and explain, it's much easier to implement. So that's my goal of helping to contribute towards your project here, is just to be able to create a better lifestyle for the agency owners that are willing to do things a little bit differently perhaps, and bust out to the next level.
I totally agree with everything you just said. Now, one of the things, though, that people will think now, some of these big agencies, they're going to say, wait a minute. I'm big, we're already there. But I think these basics are good. I don't care how big your agency is. If you come back to really what it is, now you begin to look at your agency in a different way. Oh, they're a multiplier, they're a maximizer, whatever. And you begin to do it. And I have read the book so many times that I could almost do it for you. In fact, you ought to send me a commission. No, I don't. Just kidding you. But the book I'm talking about, guys, is the Breakthrough Agency. For this one, if you want to go back, you go back to Monday morning on the agency's online menu, and you go into the basic part of it. You're going to find you're going to find more and more really basic things in there for your agency staff. And a lot of those are based on if the elephant sits on you, are you covered? And Bart goes into those things for us because he goes to the basics in not just the endorsements and all the other things that automobile or homes or whatever it is can offer, but he also goes about the philosophy of it. And what he's really saying is we've commoditized, we let this thing commoditize, not really realizing that the products are not commodities. But we'll come back, and you'll see those back on the basic system when you go to the agency's online menu. But we're going to talk more about this Breakthrough Agency. Here's how to get it. Let me suggest you do this. I imagine this is how long has it been out, Bart?
Well, the Breakthrough Insurance Agency was published, I believe it was May of this year, and If an Elephant Sits on You, Are You Covered was published the prior year.
I bet it's selling. It's going to sell a lot more. Let me suggest one last thing, Dave, just before we leave here, because this is really right on. I mean, you can get hold of Bart this way, and he'll respond, and he responds really well to me. And his assistant Stacy is very, very good, and so I really enjoy working with him. But what I want to suggest you use this: go to Kindle, they can get it there, and you can buy a hardcover or soft cover of this, or the Kindle, electronic cover, which I did. I bought both of them because I use that a lot, and you come back to it so easy. I put it in my pocket now, and I think, well, let me look at that a little bit more, and so. But I would get it if I were you, if I were an agency manager. Pay the $10 or something it costs for a Kindle, whatever, and get it and read it and look at it and say, oh my gosh. Then get it for your staff. And don't hire anybody who doesn't see it. And make that part of the hiring process because it's very, very worthwhile. You got any last words on this, Bart?
Well, George, you did say one thing that I think is so important nowadays as far as insurance not being a commodity, is that insurance is so far from a commodity that I think it's amazing how successful some of these people like, Geico, Progressive, and so forth have become by trying to commoditize the product. And I am constantly running into, people that are victims of those companies where they have something significant happen to them, and they end up coming out of pocket. They end up having so many, consequences of not being insured correctly, that it's really like my mission to be able to demonstrate and educate the consumer, and also how we as the agency force can have a completely different type of conversation with the customer, so that when they're done dealing with us, when they're done dealing with people that really understand and believe passionately that insurance is not a commodity, it has to be customized specifically for the individual, and that once we are able to do that, craft it, and the customer knows what they have and why they have it, first, the retention goes through the roof, but second, it's just the right thing to do. So it's a different mindset. It's not about cost. Obviously, you have to be, somewhat competitive, but it's about service, and it's about properly protecting our clients' assets. And so that's what the If an Elephant Sits on You, Are You Covered is all about. And then the second book is all about the freedom and lifestyle that we as agency owners can achieve. So if I make a dent in any of those two areas, I would have felt that I've been successful in what the mission was.
I think you're going to do more than dent. I think you're going to break through. That's a pun.
Thank you, George.
Thank you, because we're getting back here to what we really need to go back to. And sometimes we just run our agency so long and work so hard for so many years, we forget here's the basics, and it's good. I really appreciate you sharing all this with us. I look forward to working with you again on some more of the coverages, and on these every month or so we'll have one of these, and it's very worthwhile. So on behalf of all of us, Bart, thanks.
Thank you, George. It's been my honor, my privilege. Thank you for everything you do for us too.
Okay, well, okay, guys, and I'll see the rest of you next Monday morning.